Well, red and blue played a little dance during the first couple maneuvers here, but now they're going to have a little battle. And red's got their heavy cruiser. They've got a carrier which is sort of partially screened. It can still fire, and they've got their fighters. And this reveals something that maybe they didn't want to, but if they can take this out, then they can conduct, this can't all be here, these are behind, then they can conduct attacks into blue's territory again. Blue's got a scout and a meager destroyer, which looks a lot weaker than what red has put out. Let's take a look at what the values are. See if anything's out of the ordinary. We know everything that red has both the attack and defense value, and just one level of each. And blue's Scout 3 has the attack value, but not the defense. Has blue picked up defense yet? Because that destroyer sure ought to have both, and it's not marked at all. Okay, well, I'll mark them later. But blue has picked up attack and defense now, so that destroyer has both. It was just built. Alright, let's take a look at the ranges here. Well, the fighter, we have to take a look at the technology on it, and it's a B5, and that's it. So it's pretty fast too. So actually it's the fastest things. And 3 of them, I'm going to fire 1 at the destroyer, and that's a 5. It should be at even against the destroyer. It does not take it out, and the other 2 will shoot the scouts. And they should be 6s against the scout, I believe. And no hits whatsoever. Painful rolls. The cruiser is going to also go against the destroyer. It's got a net of 4 against the destroyer, and it misses as well. And that's a big set there. Now the destroyer can shoot back. It can't shoot at the cruiser, which is the only thing, or the carrier, which is the only thing out there that's left to fire, and that's where I would normally target. I'd like to take that cruiser down. It's more valuable than the fighters, so I'm going to shoot at that. I've got attack and defense, so I need a 3. I don't get that. And now we're on the E's, and the carrier is going to take a pop at the destroyer. It needs a 3. It gets a hit and finishes that off. And then the 4 scouts are going to split up. 3 are firing at the 2 are firing at the fighters, which currently have, I believe, a defense of 1. No, they have 0 defense strength until they hit fighter 3. Okay, so the scout has an attack bonus, so it indeed has 3s. It gets no hits, and it was going to take 2 rolls on the cruiser as well, where it only has a 2. And it gets 1 hit there. So now, red's done some damage. They could pull out again now that their cruiser's been hit. There's a risk to losing it. On the other hand, they have a lot of firepower here, especially with those fighters. The fighters are definitely going to stick around. And that's 3 dice at 5. And they only get 1 hit on the scouts. Now here's the question, what does the cruiser want to do? It wants to pull out because it's damaged and gets a chance to repair that way. Now we go to the scouts and the carrier. Now the carrier, if it pulls out, it takes the fighters with it. So they kind of want to stick around. They've got a pretty good trade-off. The fighters are cheaper than the scout and better fighters. the scouts could pull out, but in doing so, they pretty much concede that the carrier will be able to get through and maybe take out that base. So they want to fire as well. So they're firing at the fighters, 3 of them at, looks like 3s. And they get 1 hit on the fighters. And the carrier gets to shoot back as well. And it's firing at a 4, I believe, against the scout. So the scout doesn't have a defensive bonus. And that's no hit. Battle continues. The fighters get to go first, and they're sure going to stick around. They have a 5, a 6 against the scouts. They get 1 hit. Which now puts it back to the same choice as before. Now the scouts are feeling like they don't have much of a chance here. However, pulling out seems so dangerous in terms of losing a colony. They won't lose one this turn though, so they're going to pull out, but the carrier does get 1 returning shot, and it's at a 4. It misses. So the scouts pull back to where they came from. And the rest of the fleet of the red fleet is here. And then we go back to red's action. Well, a second combat was engaged. Blue pulled away under the guns of their shipyard. Red followed them there. The cruiser went back and went into hiding, so that it's unknown exactly what it is when it comes out. Of course, if one stack comes out, we'll know the cruiser's in it. However, the carrier and its 2 fighters was able to clear out the remaining scout, as well as the 2 shipyard spaces that were there. And now they get to bombard the planet. And let's see what they can do. First, the fighter gets a hit, and the carrier gets a hit. That's 2 levels down. And they've done a lot of damage with this little raid. Alright, well, that puts it back on blue, and blue doesn't really have much they can do. They've got this colony ship, which honestly, I'm not sure it wants to land where it is. You know, blue's having so much trouble defending their territory. I think they'll move it across to here. I'm not sure which one's better, but they do want to get the colony started, even if it's at risk. We see red's already set up. They found Andromeda, which they'll be able to colonize. And they've been moving their other forces around as well. I think this did not move. Oh, they didn't move the 3rd time. That's what happened. Yeah. Alright, let me just reshift those. But things are looking much, much better for red right now. And blue's got to start considering bringing the Doomsday Machines down. Risky as that could be, if they can bring them down into here, they're going to just wreak havoc on red's area, and that's not connected at all to blue, so this could all be destroyed without it affecting blue at all. So at the end of the economics phase, neither side bid. Red chose to go first again. Red's halting their economic expansion program, which has been shifting forces in this direction. Largely, they needed to rebuild the forces, and they also need to start buying tech. Blue, on the other hand, slapped a ship down over here. They got the first battle cruiser in the game. That's the same size as a cruiser, a little bit better combat abilities. It's kind of iffy to take those things that aren't bigger, really. The battleship seems like the next thing in line, but the battle cruiser is an interesting option at this point. It's a little better than the than the cruiser. Red's built up some more fighters. It'll give them some replenishment if they can get back, but that may be a tough fight. That battlecruiser may go hunting their carrier, and the carrier's down to one fighter, so he's kind of weak at this point. This is one of the problems with the carrier, I guess. You can't get away. You know, you can't go on a raid and come back at full strength. You lose part of your force essentially. Of course, that's true with a larger fleet too, but with a cruiser or something, if whatever's hunting is small enough, you know, that it can handle and still survive, it can get out of there and then make its way home. The carrier is a little bit more fragile, I think. Although, of course, it has its fighters to expend. We have colonies to improve or create, as the case may be. Andromeda has just become a 1-point colony for red. And blue has to choose here. They're going to go ahead with their colony over here on Centauri. Try to keep their economy as strong as red's. Surprisingly, red's actually developing a pretty potent economy. It's not blue's level. Blue's at 31, 32 a turn, whereas red's only at 25, but now they're up to 26. Blue's gains up here, but this is going to be lost. So, you know, the raiding is definitely working, and that's what blue's looking at, is force red to defend their own territory now, however that is. Still nobody's built the small ships to try to lure the doomsday machines in. And I guess we'll go to the beginning of the next turn with red starting. Might as well load this one up too.